Okay, so welcome everyone to the Friends of Nigeria in partnership with Level Higher webinar focused on transitioning from non-tech to tech. So basically, we have our speakers with us. We've got three speakers, and they will be sharing with us insights on what it means to transition from a non-technical background to work in tech. They're giving us practical knowledge, and it's going to also be a very interactive session. So at the end of the panel session, where I would ask them some questions, would also be taking questions from the audience. So at the end of the session. So thank you everyone for joining. And thank you to our esteemed speakers for joining. We've got with us Olumide Okubadejo, Nkechunwosu Habib Aminu, here with us today. And I'll just be reading a brief introduction on their profiles, and then we'll kick into this session. Okay, so basically, we have with us, but before I read their profiles, I'm sure that some of us are curious to know why this webinar is important, and I'll just be drawing like a little bit of background into it. Tech is something that is, it's now an everyday word. It's because it impacts very much our everyday life. We've got tech in different industries. We've got tech playing across industries. We've got tech with fintech, health tech, pure tech, and obviously our speakers will be going into details on what it means to be working in tech. But tech is something that has, taken over. We saw with even the pandemic how much of an importance tech played in ensuring that we were able to work remotely and that we had the right tools in place to work remotely. And beyond that, tech is an enabler for so many industries and for everyday life. So yeah, so this is why we've come up with the idea to have this webinar, and it's focused basically to touch on what you need to know to get into tech, and we're going to be giving insights on the tech industry, and also going to practical steps on how you can actually transition into tech. We've got with us today, so now I'll introduce our speakers. As we've got with us today Olumide Okubadejo, and I'll just be reading his profile briefly, who is an AI research scientist. He's worked with Spotify. He specialized as an AI research scientist previously. He's worked with Spotify on specializing in music generation using parametric methods and machine learning models. He's currently the head of product at Sabi, and he has a PhD in geomechanics, image processing, and a master's in artificial intelligence. Obviously, you guys have heard his profile, and you must be as intrigued as I am to know how somebody has put, the resources and time to study this, quite commendable fields or in tech. AI is a buzzword that we all know about, and it's quite interesting to see that we have a Nigerian who is also, blazing the trail in AI as a research scientist and also as a practitioner. So also just to give you a little bit of introduction on Olumide and how he interfaces with Friends of Nigeria. Friends of Nigeria, he's been he used to lead a committee for Friends of Nigeria, which is a digital committee. And he used to, give us free trainings to the community on Python and different AI, how to transition to AI. So he's someone that, is very passionate about giving back to community, hence why he's here today to share his knowledge with you. So I'll be spotlighting him in a bit so you can get to see who I've introduced. So Olumide, welcome. So, and next off, we've got Habib Aminu, who is also someone that we appreciate a lot. He came recommended by Level Higher, and he's someone that is also a seasoned, experienced tech expert, and he works in France. He currently works with Amazon Web Services. He's a seasoned data consultant with expertise in data analytics, AI, machine learning, and cloud architecture. And he also has a strong background in designing resilient and performant architectures. and this is what he does in Amazon Web Services as well, which we all are conversant with. I shall spotlight him in a bit. And then last but not the least, we've got with us Nkechi Nwosu, who is the co-founder of Level Hire. Level Hire is a recruitment agency focused on diversity and inclusion. And there, she serves as a co-founder for Level Hire here in France. She's worked across different continents in the HR field. She's worked in Africa, Europe, and North America. And she's also someone that volunteers as the Director of Media and Communications at Friends of Nigeria. And I shall be spotlighting Nkechi in a second. Okay, so welcome Nkechi, welcome Olimide, welcome Habib, and it's lovely to have you all here today. And we'll go into the crux of the matter in with some questions. But before that, I would like for you all to do justice to your introductions. I've given a brief introduction, but obviously it's better for them to hear from the source's mouth. And we'll be going first with the lady. Nkechi, could you kindly give us a brief introduction about yourself and who you are and what you do in 1 minute?
Hi, everyone. Lovely to be here in this capacity. and thanks, Oyin. You, like we say back in Nigeria, you've said it all. But yes, I recently started Level Hire with a very strong focus on diversity and inclusion to help companies build diverse teams and also to create a platform where ethnocultural talents can access mentors, help them build skills, help them exchange ideas, learn what's new in the industry. And yeah, it's often not so easy to find a mentor. We always say you should have a mentor, but sometimes, accessing the right person and, being able to determine if it's the right fit for you, but also you having that person to be like a support, a sponsor for you within organizations, especially when we're in an environment that isn't our comfort zone, right? So Level Hire is a platform where we want to make all of these connections a bit more seamless, so that professionals can grow and continue to grow and build careers that they are proud of and thrive in their careers. So I'm really happy to be here with a lot of people that are friends. And I'm looking forward to all the learnings that we will share here. Thank you all for being a part of this session.
Thank you, Nkechi. Very well said. So next off, I'll be asking Habib to introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, Songi, for the quick intro. So my name is Habib Hamino. I'm currently based in Paris, and I work in AWS as a data consultant, and I've been there for over 2 years now. And I'm so happy to be in today's session to help people, talk more about tech, help them to transition, share some resources with my fellow people here. So yeah, I won't talk too much. Yeah, looking forward to the rest of the session.
Thank you, Habib. Very, very welcome. So next off is Olumide. Can you please tell us a little about yourself in a minute?
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, yeah, so my name is Olumide. I've been in tech for 20 years now. So from front end to back end to AI for 10 years now. And yeah, I'm also very passionate about giving back and mentoring and teaching. I also hold a teaching position here in Paris still. Yeah, Yep, and it's one of my passions, like you said, to always try to give back and try to help people to transition into tech, or maybe just make money off tech, whichever comes first.
Great, 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 great.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice to meet you guys and you all. It's been lovely to prepare this session with three of you. Just a brief introduction on Friends of Nigeria before we'll be sharing like an introduction at the end of this this session. But just to let you know who Friends of Nigeria are, Friends of Nigeria is a diaspora association organization registered in France. We've got chapters in different countries. And today you're here because Friends of Nigeria decided to partner with Level Higher on this transition into tech webinar. And I am Oyindamola Olusmade Odunuga, and I volunteer for Friends of Nigeria as the Director of Professional Memberships. And we'll do a slide on Friends of Nigeria after, but we know that you're more interested in knowing how to transition to tech. So we'll go straight into it. And we'll start with the questions. So first question will be to Habib Aminu. Yes, I already see. This is nice. The comments are coming in. Transition or make money in tech. Love it. So in this slide, Habib Aminu, can you tell us give us a brief introduction into the tech industry? A brief introduction into the tech industry. Let's know what the tech industry is about. What does it mean to, what are the trends briefly, and then what is it exactly? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, just to give you a quick overview of the tech industry. So, the tech industry is one of the most rapidly evolving and innovative sectors in the world, and it encompasses a wide range of technologies, including software development, hardware manufacturing, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and many more. So for my own case, as I'm based in cloud computing, so the tech industry in cloud computing it gives a wide range of opportunities because from a non-tech background, it's very easy to come in because most of the services are already built. You just need to learn how it works. So you just need to come with the skills of learn and be curious, and you help the customers to leverage the best services for them to use to achieve their business outcomes. So that's just a quick overview.
Thanks, Habib. And I'm very glad that today we have a cloud someone that works in the cloud space and someone that works in AI. And just because specifically we have according to Deloitte in a 2024 report by Deloitte, what some of the things that would move the tech industry back to being in boom from previous recessions, which is global, and previous layoff trends is trend is the cloud, the AI, and cybersecurity, specific trends in tech that would actually help to move. And I'm happy that we have someone that's a cloud that works in cloud and someone that works as an AI research scientist. So it'll be great to have your input as we go forward on how these trends can impact the transition, preparing for the transition. So my next question now will be to Olumide. What does it mean to work in tech concretely? I know that, for instance, we've got, when people say they work in tech, it can be very sometimes it's not clear. And I know that there are different ways that you can actually work in tech. For instance, you could be a non-tech person in terms of your role, working in a tech company, or you could be a tech person working in a tech company, or you could be a tech person, working in a tech role or in a non-tech company. So these obviously nothing is white and black, but what are the what does it mean to actually work in tech from your point of view, Olumide?
Yes. So like you said, yeah, you have all of this four distinctions, tech in a non-tech company, tech in a tech company, non-tech in a non-tech company, and non-tech in a tech company. And all of this, there are different opportunities that accrue to you. There are different ways by which you can say your work goes, or there are different things that you do in all of these companies. Working in a tech company as a non-tech person in a tech company obviously puts the focus on the company. You know, a company that is building maybe tech solutions around what Habib has said, maybe cloud computing, AI, um, Internet of Things, machine learning, all the new buzzwords, or maybe just a company that, you know, builds chat GPT and all those kind of models. You know, you talk of those things as a tech company, but then there's also, you know, being a tech person in a non-tech company, where the vision, the focus of the company is more or less a business focus, a market focus, but then you have a tech role, you know, where, you know, there's two things. There's a company where tech is the enabler, and then there's a company where tech is the business itself. So having a tech role in a company where tech is just the enabler for the business, you know, it's also working in tech. But of course, you know, the vision of the company is different. And maybe that goes on to influence the strategy of the company and also the opportunities within the company. But largely, having a tech role in a tech company, a tech role in a non-tech company. But one other one I'd like to also highlight is having a non-tech role in a tech company,
Yeah.
because that is also very critical to our conversation here. The non-tech role in a in a tech company, you know, gives you different accesses, and then, you know, we'll start to talk about different accesses to the tech. For instance, your core service in, let's say, a Google is, you know, to deliver value maybe on search, and you're working maybe as a marketer, right? It's a non-tech role in a tech company, but that exposes you to certain tech elements and certain opportunities. So I'd hone in on those three because I feel like they are very critical to our conversations.
Yeah.
Tech in a tech company, non-tech in a tech company, and tech in a non-tech company.
Absolutely. Great, great, great. Okay, so that'll be our focus. And well, before we go into, you know, I'd like for Habib to just, you know, give us a quick insight onto like what are the opportunities in tech, for instance, like from a global view before we go into depth. But let me just give a little disclaimer. We're having the first sessions, which are more of the you know, the tech overview, industry overview questions. I'll be directing the questions at Habib and Olumide, and then we'll go into a discussion where we'll have Habib, Olumide, and Nkechi go into details. But I just wanted to give like a background from a technical point of view. So just bear this in mind. So Habib, could you give us a quick insight into what opportunities there are in tech?
Okay. So for opportunities in tech, there are a lot of opportunities that you could look into. So it depends on what you're actually looking for. So you could look for opportunities in networking, in cybersecurity, in data roles. Different data roles you could look into, like data engineering, data scientist, machine learning, or data analyst roles. You could also look into non-tech. So there are non-tech roles also that are available, like let's say account managers. I'm focused on like cloud computing roles. So
Yeah,
account managers, we have account managers that they just accompany the customer, you know, to achieve what they're looking for with technical people and the entire organization. And we also have like customer success manager. They work as like project managers, but we don't call them like project managers. We call them something else, like engagement managers. So sometimes you might be looking for roles that you know that the name is like this, but on the cloud is not the actual name. So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities because for us internally, we can actually filter roles by non-tech or tech. So it depends on how you want to transition, but
interesting.
the opportunity is very vast.
Okay, great. So I love that we've, you know, set the tone. We've talked about like tech as an enabler, and then and you know, like in a non-tech company where you have tech as an enabling, you know, function, where and then we have tech as, you know, core activity of the business. And then we've seen the roles that can, you know, like Habib has mentioned, we have like software engineers, data analysts. We also have project management, project managers that are called engagement managers, like for instance in cloud computing. And I think that was very great to hear that you mentioned that you might be looking for a tech role, but it might not be what you're used to it being referred to. That's one of the key points I picked from Habib, that for instance, you're going to cloud computing and you're thinking that you want to become a project manager, but you could actually, the research should be focused on engagement manager, for instance. Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing that, Habib. And then I think the next question will be a practical example in terms of going into the pathways, right? So this is going to be the next question is going to be to actually, what are the pathways? How can I transition? And for this, I'll call on Nkechi Nwosu to tell us about the transferable skills that are needed, in transitioning, and then we'll go into the pathways after. Yeah. So Nkechi Nwosu, can you please tell us about the common pathways for transitioning into tech? Common transferable skills needed to transition into tech, rather. Yeah.
Of course. To transition, I think now a lot of employers are beyond your technical skills. Soft skills are highly desirable. And a lot of them are skills that we already employ in our current roles that are not technical. So when you talk about skills such as communication, being able to effectively communicate with people, verbally, having very good presentation skills, which is something that you currently employ on your recent role. Those are skills that you should never downplay when you have taken this decision to make a transition into the technical role. Skills such as collaboration. All right, in the tech world, in the tech industry, a tech person never works alone, because even if you're a software developer, even if you're an AI scientist or researcher, machine learning expert, you're doing that in collaboration with other teams. If you're developing products, there is a customer, there are other teams that are involved in building a product. All right, so that competence to collaborate effectively with other people internally and externally. Are you emotionally intelligent, all right, to be able to have logical conversations, putting sentiments aside? Conflicts will always, arrive when it's not just you're working as a solo person, you're collaborating with other people. So how are you able to resolve conflicts and, go and address the critical matters, right? So that collaboration skill, ability to manage conflicts, to work as a team player, extremely very important. Something that defines the tech industry today is change.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday, what was happening yesterday, by the time you wake up, it's a new thing, it's a new language, or it's a new way of doing things. So that flexibility, do you have an agile, in the tech world, we use the word agile, but it really does mean how quick are you to adapt to change, right? It's not a place where you say, if it has always worked in the past, it will always work. No, things change on a regular basis. So you need to be able to have that flexibility to embrace change, and to learn continuously. How do you stay abreast of what's happening in the industry? Do you have that curiosity? Because when you go for interviews, there might be questions that are just, crafted to test how curious a person are you to stay abreast of what's happening in your industry, because that's something that is highly recommended, or that it's a skill that is highly sought after in the tech industry, whether it's a pure tech role or whether it's a support function role within a tech, environment. So those are skills, that if you are currently employing where you are right now, keep at it, keep developing it. And once you begin your transition, don't shy away from highlighting the skills and how you have employed them in the past or in your current role, because they are value adding propositions that you bring. Okay, so
Yeah,
yes, I
right.
would say.
Okay, so thank you very much for sharing that, Nkechi. So some of the skills you did share were communication, collaboration, presentation, learning how to present, and then also being adaptable, which means that you're open to continuous learning. And I think that's also something that's very big in the tech industry, because it's a fast-paced industry where you have trends, new topics, new subjects, picking up. Before it might have been, just Internet of Things, but then it evolves into like new things like AI, generative AI, and all of that. That now is buzzwords. And I think in that sense, I will move to the next question and the next person. So I'll move to Habib firstly. Habib, could you tell us some of the technical skills that are needed, are transferable in tech? So like that might not be that might be from someone from a non-technical background, but that, for instance, it could be like, I know data is a buzzword, but like maybe if someone is used to doing data analysis in a non-tech company, in a non-tech role, what are the transferable technical skills that we could also bring into tech, even from a non-tech background?
Oh, okay. Okay, to answer that, so in Amazon, we do have what we call like leadership principles. So the leadership principles, let's just say, there are behavioral questions that could help you, phrase how to answer questions. And those are like the skills you do have, like you have already achieved on other project or other companies. So the first thing I'm going to highlight there is going to be, let's say, total ownership. Like, I don't know if NK mentioned it. So if you do have like total ownership, like what that means for us is like you think long term and you don't sacrifice long term value for short term result. So you should actually use that very well. So always, for example, if you're creating a solution for a customer, always think about the long term, because we want this person to keep, using the services that we have instead of them deciding to move to, to our competitors. So those are like very, very transferable skills that is very, very essential for a technical person. And the second thing I'm going to highlight there is going to be like invent and simplify. So sometimes as a data guy or any other role, you could, go for more complex solution instead of you actually trying to, start from the simplest form of, simplest form of solving things. Yeah. So just one minute. I
Oh,
just want to, yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Thanks,
I'll come
Habib.
back.
Habib, yes, you. So Habib and Nkechi has shared some really insightful transferable skills. Really loved what they both mentioned, or what they both mentioned so far. Total ownership from Habib, thinking long term, do not sacrifice, the long term goals for the immediate gains. Invent and simplify. I think these are words we should also keep. We could apply to non-tech roles as well and tech roles. Yeah, from as shared by Habib. So next question actually is now going into I want us to look at the common pathways. And in going into the common pathways that we can actually get, I want us to have a concrete example where we see like, examples from a non-programming point of view and from a programming point of view. What are the examples? But firstly, I'd like for Olumide to tell us, a little about AI. What does it mean? What does AI mean? What are the buzzwords in tech, and what do they mean to like a layman? Olumide, could you just share?
Yeah, so AI is I believe one of the greatest inventions. And in my mind, one of the ways I simplify it is this. Previously, the ways that human beings have learned to evolve is that we've learned to learn from our examples or learn from our failures or learn from our environment, right? And AI is just that field that was able to take that ability to learn that, you have in a human or you have in living things, and then put that in machines. So right now, you do not just have a static machine. You do not just have, something that is, can do your Excel shit, but you have something that learns how to do it better every time it does it. And that was the invention, or that is the invention, AI. Now, within AI, there are multiple kinds, or there are multiple branches. I know you've heard machine learning, because there are many ways that you can do AI. Back in the master's in 2013, then one of the ways that was very popular was genetic algorithms, and would build algorithms that was mimicking the way ants work or the way bees work, and or the way they collaborate. And those were very popular in the day, and machine learning was there, but we were not able to build very complex models like we have now. But machine learning is just a way by which machines can learn from data, right? So the more they see the data, which is in a way you can say experience. Think about a child. You say, oh, that's a car, that's a car, that's a car, that's a truck. And then the next thing you say is, okay, so what is that? And being able to give that to machines through different kinds of algorithms is what we call machine learning. Now I know that we've heard about generative AI. Generative AI is different. So generative AI leverages on machine learning a lot. So it's just a layer on top of it. And one of the ways that I explain it is, normally most of the AI that we've done have always been task oriented, right? And what's the difference between a car and a dog and a goat? What's you're trying to classify things.
Yeah.
Now, over time, we started to build very complex models and very large models, right? And I know you've heard about large language models. Very large models that couldn't just learn how to separate things, but they could learn what we call the entire support of a thing. And to explain that, you say the entire support of a thing is the way you can explain is, what is all the knowledge that goes into generating images? And so how can I distill all of the knowledge that goes into generating an image to a machine, to a model? And so we had this layer of models that you could now distill an entire subset of fields or entire fields or creative fields into them. And because, it's complex mathematics, it's complex interactions, they have to be very large, and, they take a lot of processing. And so that field that leverages on machine learning to be able to distill, how do I write papers? How do I understand languages? How do I create art? How do I create songs? At Spotify, one of my major research areas was how to create songs, how to create like soundtracks for artists, without any human intervention. And how can you distill all of that, piano, drums, guitar, into models? And so that's the field of generative AI. And of course, because it's it's very complex interactions, you need them to be large. And in the case of languages, you have things like large language models, but then that translates into many other things, large music models, large artistic models, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Olumide, for sharing that. So that's an insight to AI, generative AI, and machine learning, defined. So the next question I have is going to be, so now that we know like what we have a background of what AI is, what these key buzzwords are in machine learning, generative AI, what the differences and what they are. I want to ask you like concretely, how do I move from a tech background, a non-tech background into, programming. But before I do that, I know you have to share your slides, so I'll let you get that ready. I'll ask Habib to do the same, but from non-tech to a non-programming role. So Habib, can you just run us through how we move from a non-tech role to a non-programming role? And you can use any of your examples. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to use solution architect as an example. So I'm not sure, maybe you're familiar with what solution architect does. But a solution architect is simply someone that directly works with customers to accelerate their project and recommend best practices, architectures in line with their long-term business outcomes. So we do have like ready-made solutions like on AWS. As a solution architect, you could just come in and you leverage the internal resources we do have and you upskill yourself. So if you have like a problem from a customer that he wants to achieve, let's say is trying to move from one database to another, from on-prem to the cloud, you definitely going to have the solution there. You read about it, you go tell the customer, advise him on what solution to use. Then the customers, developers, or the partners that will help him to achieve that, we do the programming for him. It's also good to have like, let's say understanding of what the problem is. So you could still upskill, like learning some, let's say, tools that could help the customer achieve it, but you don't need to actually be the one to go and code it. For example, you could say, okay, you're going to use, let's say, some services to transform your data. You just need to just explain that to the person, and they will look for someone else, like a developer, that will actually get that done. So you're just like a leader in that project. So like let's just say like a project manager, but solution architect, they're more, they have like technical solutions, but you're not actually programming anything. So that is actually a very good role for non-technical person to actually get into. It might be different for other cloud providers, but for AWS, you actually not really programming. So yeah, there are a lot more, but that's the one I will share. We could actually still share with you some the name of the roles that that are non-technical or non-programming roles also.
Great. Well, thank you, Habib. That's very great to hear that at AWS and maybe in similar organizations, you have the opportunity to upskill, to understand the problem, and then leverage on internal resources to actually provide the services to the clients, the final clients, and that you don't have to be an expert to actually, become a solution architect, and that you have to leverage on the skills of this upskilling opportunities within AWS, and you're able to now what's it called, commence this career. But I want to ask you what are the requirements for this job? Do you have a fair idea of what it will take to actually just from a non-tech background enter into this role?
So basic. So if I should look into the uh the external, like on LinkedIn, right? The
Yeah.
basic qualifications, if you should look at it, actually, they're not asking for much. For example, the basic qualification there is just relevant tech experience or something equivalent. So even if
Yeah.
it's not tech experience, you could actually, get something else. And also like experience in designing, developing, so you could let's say you could be you could be a manager somewhere else, and you could come, you know how to handle teams, you know how to do some other stuff. You could use that also as an advantage, because this role actually is going to teach you what you need to do. So
Great. So it's
your
on the
previous
job
experience,
learning.
yeah. So because I know a lot of people that actually learned on the job. Even me myself, I got into AWS as a young graduate, so I had a 6 month period to learn, and most people actually didn't even come from a technical background, and they were able to catch up quickly, and they're actually still working for AWS. So yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks, Abby. This has been concrete. So thank you. That's an example for people that are interested in probably developing a career in solution, as starting off their career as solution architects at AWS or similar organizations that do cloud. So I'll move to Olumide now. I can see a question. Aside from acquiring certifications like AWS practitioner, how can one have practical exposure to fully qualified or solutions architect? Okay, so we'll pick up questions at the end, and then we'll have time for you all to interact with the speakers in terms of asking questions. But we'll go to the next question, which is Olumide's question. How do we concretely move from non-tech into becoming a programmer?
So yeah,
A programming role rather. Yeah.
A lot of people might call me a Python evangelist, but I believe that it's the entry point. I believe it's the simplest point for people who are, just coming into tech. I feel it's the simplest programming language you can learn, and so it helps. And also, one of the reasons that I'm highlighting Python here is because Python sort of gives you that segue into all of the fields. So it's something that you could learn now and then decide later what you want to do or what part of tech you're interested in, right? And that's what makes it very interesting. If you're working with another programming language like Java or C++, for instance, a C++, you know that you want to start working on embedded systems or high performance systems. A Java, you want to start working on systems that can run on, different OSs or Android and all of that. But with Python, you can, wait to gain information about the field before you decide where you want to go into. So you can learn Python and then get into data science. Python is central to data science, visualization tools, SciPy and all of that is very central to it. So if you decide that, oh, I want to be a data scientist or I like data science, or you learn Python and decide, oh, data science seems cool, you can easily just pick that up, right? It's just about the packages that you use, the syntax and the way that you execute still remains the same. And trust me, it's the simplest programming language you could learn. A lot of things in Python is just like English. I know that might be oversimplified because I've been in the field for a while. I mean, you're still going to have all the resilience that comes with learning a programming language. And also, those are the skills that, NCAT talks about. You also have to have like the ability to the resilience to learn from failure, because when you get into this, failure is like the order of the day. Every single day you fail like 100 times, you succeed once, and you have to be comfortable with it. You have to be okay with it. But yeah, when you get into it, Python is sort of that language that helps you, that is very easy and new, and it's very easy to pick up, I would say. From there, you can go into DevOps, where you can say, okay, fine, you want to start writing scripts for hosting performance systems on the cloud, for instance, right? You want, let's say, somebody designed the best website in the world, and then you're like, oh, I want to make sure that everybody in the world can have access to this website, and have the best experience of this website. This is really dependent on DevOps. For instance, if somebody in China needs to access the website and then the website is hosted in the US, don't forget that the website has to travel from the US to China. Oh, it's real time, but that is maybe 2 seconds or 3 seconds. And you're saying, okay, fine, to mitigate this. Or let's say you're building a YouTube where you're having to stream videos, and that is going to be a lag. While you're working for a Netflix, you need to make sure that you have the right amount of servers hosted in China to serve your Chinese population, and you have the right amount of servers hosted in Europe to enable a very good user experience, right? I mean, I think that's the difference between watching Netflix videos and sometimes, all those sites that we go from behind. The experience is really crappy. And that's because, there's probably no DevOps person. They do not have those resources. You can also decide to do web development. You want to build websites. Python also helps you do that, whether you're working on front-end systems or back-end systems. It's not really great for front-end. I would be honest with you, it's not. But it's also it's an entry point, and don't forget that we're trying to see entry points here that are very good for you. And from Python, you can decide to go into JavaScript, but by the time you're getting into JavaScript, you already understand the core computing standards. You already understand what it takes to build a website. You already understand the difference between front end and back end, and Python helps you do that. If you're interested in financial programming, it pays a lot right now. They call them quants. Yeah, where you want to start building models for, hey, this is how this stock is going to perform. This is how this crypto market is going to perform. This is where you should invest, where people should invest, or you really just want to build auto traders. Financial programming is also quite big nowadays. If you see yourself maybe working in a JP Morgan, I know they do hire a lot of financial programmers, or quants as we call them. But in combination with Python, you need to be very mathematical. Also with data science, you need to pair that with comfort in mathematics. Like for instance, at some point, I'm very comfortable explaining things in maths, so you have to also get to that point where you are comfortable. But that is after you've started to work with Python. Game development too is also follows the same standards. Machine learning also follows the same standards, where you want to start building AI systems. The entry point is Python. In fact, I would say 95% of AI systems in the world right now are built on Python. And it's very funny because this is the simplest language. But I also understand that to allow the adoption of AI, they had to go with the simplest language. So Python is also an entry point into writing machine learning, but also you have to pair that with mathematics. Last one, embedded systems, not really great. Python is not really great for embedded systems. Embedded systems is where we start to build microcontrollers, Raspberry Pis and stuff. But it gives you an entry point also, a great entry point. You can build your own camera that you put in front of your door, your own doorbell, connected to your phone. Python is an entry point too for this. And there are a lot of companies that are working along all of these different spheres. And it also makes it very easy for you to switch. I hope I haven't spoken for too long, but this sort of gives you the overview on, the different fields and how Python is sort of like an entry point to them.
Okay, so this is great, and it's quite explanatory. So Python as a portal to entering into different fields of tech. So you've got DevOps, data science, web development, financial programming, and the rest. But concretely, like how easy is it to learn Python? I know you mentioned something about having liking mathematics, but is it also, what if I don't like mathematics? What if can I like pick up Python? Like, if I didn't do so well in mathematics back then, can I pick up Python? Is it something that would be very dependent on my knowledge of mathematics? Yeah.
No. So Python is independent of the maths, right? So
Okay.
it's just based on the fields that you want to get into. So if
Yeah.
you want to go into DevOps, you want to go into web dev, you want to go into embedded systems, you don't need a lot of maths. You don't even need any math at all. If you want to go into financial programming, you need more statistical models. If you want to go into machine learning, you also need more statistical models. But all of this is after you have learned Python.
Yeah.
So you only need the maths, after you've learned Python and you say, hey, I
I'm
now
branching
know,
out.
yeah, I want to do financial programming. But for Python itself, really it's just about learning the language of computers. How do you speak to a computer? How do you tell a computer what to do? It's not as complex as French, but it's way easier than French, I tell you. But it's just learning how to speak to computers, and it's really easy. I mean, I gave this joke a couple of weeks ago. The syntax is very straightforward. You don't have to learn the masculine or feminine with a chair or table. It's very
Yes.
straightforward, and definite. So
Great.
easy
I
to
know in
learn.
the past you did give us you did a virtual training on behalf of the Friends of Nigeria Digital Committee, where you
Yep.
trained us on Python.
Mhm.
This is just to call you out so that you know that we'll be expecting a repeat session at some point for the people of this network. So thank you, Olumide, for sharing that. And then now I know that we'll still have questions, but from the audience. This webinar is going to last 90 minutes in total. So we're going to take in 10 minutes we're taking questions from the audience. So you should already start thinking through your questions. But before we go into the Q&A session, I'd like to ask now that we've seen like the pathways, the solution architect example, the Python as a gateway into programming example. Now, what can be our technical upskilling strategy? And before we go into Olumide or Habib's point of view, I'd like to have Nkechi tell us about some of her thoughts on technical upskilling strategy, as upskilling is something that's quite important for a fast-paced tech industry.
Yeah, thank you. I must say that the way Olumide talks about AI, he makes it sound so easy. I'm like, okay, I want to stop HR now. I want to become the next AI scientist tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Habib said something about, when he started that job on LinkedIn, he was like, the basic requirements, designing, even if you haven't designed, I'm like, I designed a flyer last week. Does it pass? After designing.
Social media, digital skills.
Yeah. I hope those pass, right? But what are the upskilling strategies? I think that will vary, depending on individual learning styles. What are your career goals? What resources do you have available, right? I know when we talked about it, we're like, self-guided learning or formal learning, which one is it a versus? I think it's more like a combination of both, right? Again, it's the individual, what works best for you, and what are the resources that you have to really commit to this. I know that there are people that will say, okay, I'm giving myself 6 months, I want to get this done, and they're able to pull in everything that they have into that 6 months to make it work. So, but then again, a lot of resources are available online. You could do, self-studying, accessing platforms like Coursera, Udemy, edX, you have the MOOCs, which means massive open online courses. So you find that in Coursera, where you have all of these universities that have, courses that you can subscribe to. Once you complete it, you earn a certificate or even a degree to show that yes, you went through that and you did all the assessments and all of that. There are also coding, or boot camps rather, which are short-term trainings. They can be intensive. That's why they're actually called boot camps, right? So intensive, and they would focus on one technical skill or certification that you're looking to acquire, maybe web development, data science, security, and all of that. And I know that there are, a lot more of those online tutorials and documentations. I know that Habib shared some, like he said, there is a free code camp, one that he also said. There's the W3 schools. So there's a lot of online resources. And I think webinars like this are really important, because you might know some, you might not know all of them. So you have all of this information at your fingertips. So you begin to research and find which one works best for you. But of course, formal degrees are there as well. There are universities that you can go to and you undergo an intensive, maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months program, and you get a degree or a certificate that shows that you've gone through that. Or you want to go get a master's degree for 2 years, 18 months, or you want to go through the professional certifications that AWS offers, Cisco, a lot of things available. So again, it depends. What do what is your learning style? What resources do you have available? What are your career goals? Of course, there are the pros and the cons to all of this. If you do self-study, it means you have the flexibility, but it also means that you necessarily do not have a structure. Okay. So if you're not able to be disciplined enough to tell yourself, I want to get this done in 3 months, in 6 months, you're pacing yourself. Sometimes you lose steam, and something that you should have done maybe in 3 weeks or 3 months might take 9 months. All right. So there is that. There's also a problem of recognition. Okay, so I've done all of this, I've done all of this. Would that be sufficient for an employer to say, okay, believe me, have faith in me, to preach that gospel? Okay.
Thank you, Nkechi. I'm just going to pick on what you've said so far. Thank you so much for what you shared. Specifically, you mentioned 2 things. Mentioned one, learning style, resources. So it's like, and it's adaptable to your personal, preferences and your own ability to learn, if it's self-guided or, you prefer to be in a structure where you're having like a formal top degree program. But I'm going to pick on what you've said now to ask the next question. And this is to Habib. I'll be directing the question to Habib, which is what Enki just mentioned last, about the recognition. So how much does it I'll direct this to Olumide because I have a second question for Habib. So for Olumide, my question is, how much does recognition, degrees, like formal degrees recognition, come to play in tech, or is it more about I have the skill, I know I have the knowledge, I can apply it, or do you have to be certified? Do you have to have a degree? And then please, Olumide, could you take that up? You're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's not a one size fits all. You see that there are certain fields that are more certification intensive, and those are fields where it's very difficult to show projects, and I see that a lot in DevOps, where DevOps is quite certification oriented. You have the certification, it means you can host a website that can be performant across the entire globe with people having the right user experience.
Mm.
But when it comes to programming, it starts to tilt towards what projects have you done, you showing skills as opposed to you showing a degree. One of the things that with being on hiring committees is you don't even trust degrees. So if all you want to show me is that I have a certificate that shows that I did computer science, like no one cares, to be honest, especially for a programming job. And when you come into a field like AI that is now quite new, you don't have a lot of, there's no certification there. What people default to a lot is abilities and skills. So I always give this example. One of the best, a friend of mine, had met him a lot of years ago working at OpenAI. He didn't finish school. Like he didn't graduate from undergrad. I'm not saying don't graduate, but for fields like that, it's now based on what are your skills, what can you do? So it's not a one size fits all, but the rule of thumb is this. If skills are very difficult to show, there's a default back to certifications and certificates, right? If skills are easy to show, there is a default to showing those projects that show that you have those skills, because it's very difficult. Hiring in tech is very difficult. You want to hire the right person, but you want to make sure that they have the right skills. For large enterprises, like Google and Spotify, we used to have a mantra in Spotify that I can teach you skills, but I cannot teach you character. And so a lot of times, even the projects sometimes don't matter as much. They want to see that you've done a project or two, but they want to see that you have the right soft skills, you have the right tenacity, you have the right grit, you have the right collaboration, you have the right learning, how you learn. You're somebody who follows through with your learning. You're somebody who can pick up the next programming language in 2 years that someone is designing somewhere, and you can learn it and understand how it fits into making the organization more performant. So this is I think that this gives an overview of, I know it's not a direct yes or no answer, but I feel like this gives an
Yeah,
overview.
that's absolutely great. And I think it ties in what Enki mentioned earlier as well, which is that it's not a one size fits all model, or one approach fits everyone model. So I think that was great to hear you say. And I would be asking you another question afterwards, but I'll go to Habib now for one. And I know that you mentioned, Olumide, firstly, that certifications could be relevant, could be very, needed specifically for DevOps, for instance. Like we like to see that you have the credentials necessary to be able to meet the industry standards, and So in that sense, Habib, I know that you have very insightful knowledge that you've gained also from even your master's program here in France, and then you went to a school that specialized specifically in tech, and that, that you shared before that, that had given you some extra skills that you needed. So in terms of certifications, can you share more about like some resources that could be helpful for people to go to, or even the school, and like how can people pick up these skills that you were able to pick up?
Okay. All right. So for me, basically, the reason why I chose the school I studied, data engineering for artificial intelligence, was the duration actually, because I had my first master's, and my first master was in software engineering, but I wanted to go into cloud computing and also specialize in data. So I found a school that actually they do have different specialities. Okay, three specialities actually for data analytics, data engineering, and data sciences. So since my skills, like the skill set I already have, does fit into a data engineer, so I chose the school, and the program was short enough for me because it was intense. And I realized that other people without technical background also were also choosing the school because of, it's more practical. So it's an applied master's actually, not just masters of science. So
Great.
that will actually accelerate someone with a non-technical background to actually, have projects, like build a portfolio that you could show to, let's say, to hiring managers or to companies. Because for my own case, it was because of the school. Actually, Amazon contacted me because the school made me to build a portfolio. Because coming to France, I came from Algeria, which I never did any internship. So coming here with a competitive market that people already have done a lot of internship, so you need to have something to stand out. So that actually made me to stand out because I had a lot of like project to showcase, which I actually added on my LinkedIn, and they could see it. So there was no need to apply for jobs, and they could just, yeah, this guy, let's contact him. So they contacted me. So it depends on the approach you want to use, though. If you want to go for something intensive, you have the time, you have the resources, go for it. But if you want to go for self-placed, then you should also go for it. It's still fine because currently we have resources. I think I shared one with NK. I haven't shared it here. That's for cloud practitioner certification. So that's like an internal resources, is self-placed, and you could actually do it with your own reading. And yeah, you have something that you could use to uh, start applying for jobs.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Habib. How long was the duration of your master's, by the way? The applied master's in
6 months.
6 months. That's very straight to the point. Really good, and it was applied, and you were
Yeah,
able to build your portfolio.
yeah,
Great.
but
And
it's really intense. Really,
intense,
really.
yeah, yeah. I can imagine how intense that would have been. 6 months on building a portfolio, learning things, picking up things. And you said non-tech people were able to also
Yeah.
fit in and progress their careers through that masters. Could you, if you don't mind, please share the link on the to the masters on the what's on
Okay.
the chat bot, and then we'll be able chat function rather, and then we'll be able to move forward. Thank you so much, Habib. That was very, very good. So my next question actually is in line with what Habib has just said as well, mentioning that building a portfolio, right? During his what's it called? During his master's, applied master's program in France here. I want to know, Olumide, now I'm directing the next question at you. What ways are there to practice, before landing that tech job? And how do you build your portfolio, especially when you think about it from a programming point of view? You want to come into programming now, and you know that, like you mentioned earlier, Olumide as well, that programming, sometimes it's not about the skills specifically, or the certification specifically, but about having a portfolio, or something to show rather that you have the experience needed. So Olumide, could you touch this quickly?
Yeah, I would go through that quickly. It's a very tactical thing that you need to do. There are websites online like Lead Code where you could practice coding, and continuously practice. One of the things that you could start to do, especially in AI, you have places like Kaggle where you could get into projects and competitions there. There are standard competitions that you could engage in. You don't have to win, but
Yeah.
and it forces you to start and finish a project and submit it, and you can always add your submission as part of projects that you've done. I believe that after you've gone through this thing or this phase is one of the things that I do. So I start with the web, web portal trainings and stuff like that. Then I go into maybe a Kaggle competition or some coding competition and just, put the entries. The one thing that I've always done or seen people do, advise people to do is to volunteer. There are many startups right now that cannot afford to hire somebody. Go there and tell them that, oh, maybe you have one project, you're gonna work. I mean, you can work for free, honestly. I know that a lot of us feel it's not as intuitive as it should be to work for free, but once you do that project, you take a project to its completion, a product into production, into live environment where people are using it, your ability, your earning power just automatically skyrockets. I feel that is very much underutilized, but there are a lot of internship programs, they call them, that you can engage in where you are central to bringing a product to life, even after you've gone through some of these competitions. What that helps to do is to tell a company that you're not just good at doing projects in your house and maybe are not performant. You are able to create projects that people can then go on to use. Once you get through these phases, I think that you're already in the market.
Great. Thank you for sharing this insight. So you can go for competitions and then be placed in probably practice during the competitions. The goal might not be to win, but you might actually get the opportunity to also do internship programs after the competitions, work for free, just so you can get that practice going and you can improve your skills. Thank you so much for sharing, Olumide. So my last question before we go to the Q&A session is actually for Nkechi. Now that we've heard about the technical skills, we've heard about the transferable soft skills, I think there's a very important point that we haven't touched base yet is how do you brand yourself for a tech role? So like how do you position yourself in the market, like image-wise, CV-wise, community-wise? Please share.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, very quickly. Rebranding yourself is very, very critical because you're shifting gear, right? You've been in a non-technical role and you're going into something totally new. So you should be proud of that, right? It's something to be proud of to say, hey, I've taken myself through this journey of learning and acquiring new skills. So please spread the word, scream it out loud. Yeah. If you have a CV, update your CV. I've looked at, I look at CVs on a daily basis. And, if there are skills, technical skills, tools that you've learned, please, list them out. Because unfortunately or fortunately, except a recruiter reaches out to you, right? But if you search for jobs and you're submitting your CV and an ATS system is screening you, if they have put certain keywords that say, okay, you need to know how to use a particular tool, Python, and you know all of those things, but you haven't put them in your CV or updated them in your CV, you are going to be shortlisted by a machine that has been trained to look out for, one or two keywords, all right? So learn to just, rework your CV, update your LinkedIn profiles. If you go to LinkedIn Learning, there are courses on how you can, update your LinkedIn profile, use keywords and phrases based on what recruiters search for, so that when they're typing all of those things, if those are skills that you've acquired and you have them, written on your profile, it pulls you up as well. I think everything that Habib and Olumide has touched on, you need a lot of learning. So if you get the opportunity to work on projects, work on them. Like Habib said, he built a portfolio coming from somewhere where he didn't have any previous experience, so he needed to build that. So build your own portfolio and have, a folder of works that you've done to say, okay, to show for it. And when you do it, also scream about it on LinkedIn. A lot of us, even me, it's not like I'm always on LinkedIn every single day, but LinkedIn, it's when it works really good. So if you're learning, Also show yourself as someone who is learning. Go on LinkedIn, share what you've learned, leave a note, comment, begin to engage, all right? Build your community, build your network, expand, go to events, use the power of referrals, all right? If you know friends that work in the industry or that work in those roles where you want to transition into, let them know I have done this, so that there's power in, in word of mouth. And be resilient, right? So that there is a misconception or belief, rather, I don't know if it's a misconception, there's a lot of people transitioning into tech law. So it means that, okay, in a way, it's becoming very competitive. So on this call, we're not going to say once you make that transition, the next week, the job is already going to be knocking on your door, right? So you might have to still go through some weeks and some months of applying and applying, right? So don't say, oh, I thought it's, don't lose steam. So you need to be resilient. You need to keep applying, pushing for it, and keep, learning, take advantage of any of mentors that we have here. Olumide is here, Habib is here. There are also other people in the network, stay abreast of what's happening. The power of mentorship and working with people that are in that field where you aspire to be to is that you're not learning in the dark. You're learning things that are relevant, okay? So that when you have that conversation with a recruiter or with a hiring manager, you're not speaking World Wide Web that started in 1990, right? You're saying what's current and relevant. So again, I think to summarize it, really, don't be shy about it. Be proud of the transition journey that you've done, and brag about it. Let everybody know, and keep at it. Keep learning while you're searching. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nkechi. That was very insightful. So you've told us to speak up, to brag about, like, the trend, the skills that we've learned, and we'll be going into this Q&A session very soon, but I will just wrap up the session first. But thank you very much, Nkechi. So you talked about LinkedIn courses on how to update your CV, using those keywords in your CV to make sure that they are, automated screening systems don't screen you out of, the job pool. And then basically referrals, events, being resilient. And I think these were very key insights to have from you too as well. And on that note, we'll be taking questions soon. So please let your questions come in. But I'll firstly like to thank our speakers. I would like to appreciate each and every one of you because they put in time before the event to, think through things that might be relevant for each and every one of you. And I would like to firstly say a big thank you to Nkechi Nwosu of FON and Level Higher for, giving us this opportunity today to hear from her on, how we can, move into tech and sharing those insights that were very helpful for us today. I would also like to thank Olumide Okubadijo. Thank you so much for sharing insights on, from a programming point of view and other tech insights that you shared on how we could, transition. Thank you so much, Habib. And thank you so much, Habib Aminu, for sharing your insights, practical steps on how to become, for instance, a solution architect, how to move to AWS, how to, use those skills to transition successfully to tech. Everything that you all have shared have been very insightful. I'm sure that I'm not the only one that found this session insightful. We'll be having other sessions to talk more about, go into more details, and please feel free to reach out to speakers. They're on LinkedIn. So we've got you can just look up their names: Olumide Okubadijo, Nkechi Nwosu, Habib Aminu, and then please, before we end the session, I'll be sharing a slide on Friends of Nigeria, who we are, what we do. So please, we'll go into the Q&A session while our speakers are still here, so we do not bore them with our thanks. So for the French market, our first question says, for the French market, 1-page or 2-page CV, what are your takes, guys? So we'll ask Nkechi first. One page or 2-page CV as our HR expert. What is your
Oh, well, if you can keep it a 1 page, please do, right? I don't know if you've had 20 years, 30 years work experience that it needs to spill into the second page, but you know, the most critical things that you need the recruiter that is required for that role, make sure that, you know, we are seeing it on that first page, okay? And again, look at the job that you apply for. What does it require, right? And then make those things come out in the previous roles that you've done. All right. So there's no need to compare between Nigeria and France or CV or anything. Let's leave the Nigerian CV, because then we used to copy administrative assistant, receive and welcome visitors. You know, you list everything. No, bullet number 10, you do the next company, you did the same role, you copy and paste. So yeah, if you can keep it to 1 page, please do, okay? If you can. And I think everybody on this call, maybe apart from Olumide that has 20 years work experience in, but everybody on this, the majority of people on this call with 10 years work experience, it can fit into a 1 page. It can fit into 1 page.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
If you have less than that, yeah, it should be able to fit into a page.
Okay, thank you so much, Nkechi, for taking that. So I think that covers it for that CV question. Please put in your questions in the chat. I know the previous questions have been answered dutifully and nicely by Habib in the chat, so I won't be repeating the questions that Habib has already provided the resources for. So look into the chat to also see the resources provided by Habib in the chat. But I'll ask another question before, since we still have a few minutes. And my next question will be basically how we know, like, you know, tech is a buzzword, and it's rightly so because it enables so many functions. It's like the source for so many functions to function. So in this tech industry now that we see that people are getting laid off, you know, as well. I mean, just like in any other industry, but they've been like, you know, massive layoffs in 2024, 2023. 2023, we had over tech is a huge industry. Obviously, you've got like over 3 million jobs in the US in tech only in the US, not to talk of the global landscape. But you know, in comparison to this size of the industry, we still have massive layoffs that have happened recently with big brands like Microsoft, Twitter, X, and all of those. So how do you prepare yourself to be indispensable in this? Well, not indispensable, but like, how do you prepare yourself to be a bit more bulletproof from the layoff, which could happen to anybody? Olumide, I'd like for you to touch base on that quickly, and then we'll wrap up the session.
Yeah, so one way that I see it is when you get into a tech company, you have to be very strategic about your development in the company. As with any company, you have to be very intentional about how you grow in a company. And one way to avoid this layoffs is to gradually get yourself to work in departments that are more profit centers, right? So in a Google, that would be a Google search, for instance. Of course, there is the upskilling. You have to continuously upskill yourself. You have to continuously make sure that you're better at your job every single day. You have to make sure that you're improving and you're not static. You're learning the right tools, new skills, simpler ways, easier way of doing things. But also from a strategic point of view, once you get into the company, you have to move closer towards this profit centers. There's this thing called the Pareto principle, and it happens in companies where 80% of the company's profit is driven by 20% of the business, and you have to find a way to get into that 20%. Once you get there, you become central and core to, you know, to the business. Don't forget that every business goal is to make money. And if you're core and central to a business making money, then it becomes very hard for them to fire you or for them to let you go. Of course, this might be difficult in places like AI that is, very experimental at some point where, a lot of things you're working on the future of things. But you also have to make sure that when you're doing things like AI and data science, what you're working on is core. You're not just working on something that is wishful for maybe 2040. When I started my own career, I was working on those kinds of projects, but at some point I had to find myself into core projects that was going into the Spotify app. But you really want to be there. You want to be there so that you can avoid, being caught loose. And so it's be intentional about your development and be strategic about your growth and your positioning in a company. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Olumide. So on this note, we'll wrap up the session because I do not see any more questions in the chat. So we've taken the only question that came in so far. So next step will just be presenting a quick slide on FON, who we are and how can you be part of FON if you are not already part of the group. So I'll be sharing my screen quickly. Yes, so I'll be sharing my screen briefly, but thank you so much to everyone for joining. And just in the same light as you all have been very engaged so far, I plead with you to stay on as we share about FON, what the association is about, and but thank you so much. And thank you so much to our speakers. Once again, you guys have nailed it. I'm opening my slides, so I will be thanking you as I do. Yeah, so... Okay, so we have, 1 second, excuse me. So I'll be speaking about FON as I share my slides. FON is a diaspora organization registered in France, and we have chapters across European countries. Specifically, we are based in France, Germany, Benelux. Can you see my screen? Please confirm, Nkechi.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, yes.
Great. Okay, so we've got Friends of Nigeria is a not-profit organization registered in 2016. So we've been in France for a while now. We have a twofold mission. Our first mission is to build the largest network of Nigerian professionals and to empower them with the resources and the tools that they need to advance in their entrepreneurial journey or their career journey. Then the other part of FON is we also promote bilateral economic relations between France, Europe, and Nigeria. We do this by organizing events, trade missions. These are our twofold missions. And then where is FON based? As I mentioned earlier, we are registered in France. We're registered here in 2016. And basically, we have chapters in Germany, which launched our chapter in Germany launched in 2022, and we have a chapter in Belgium and Luxembourg, which was launched in 2023. But our vision is to launch in 10 European countries before 2026, as we celebrate our 10th year anniversary in France as an organization. And then these are pictures from some of our engagements. This is FON Benelux, and FON Benelux, you can see pictures from some of the engagements. Here pictured on the right is us with the FON Benelux with the ambassador of Belgium during just after an event. Here again is FON's meetup in Benelux, pictured at the bottom left. We also have our engagements in FON Germany. FON Germany just had recently had their Workers' Day event focused on navigating career advancements as a professional in Germany. And these are some pictures from the event. It was hosted in May 2024. these are some throwback events to some of the engagements that FON has participated in. We have the visit of the president, the former president, President Mohamed Buhari, to France in November 2018, which FON organized its diaspora members to meet up with the president. We also have the visit of Governor Sanwo-Olu when he came to Paris on his first official visit in May 2019 to France. And then we have here, importantly, President Emmanuel Macron launched the France-Nigeria Investment Club in 2019, and FON was invited to participate in the launch. This is another picture talking about France, the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's visit to France on his first official international trip. He visited France, and FON organized for diaspora members to meet up with the president. This was in June 2023. And then what are the main activities that we have in FON? Aside, our webinars, our meetups, we also have 2 events that are our flagship events, Spotlight Nigeria, NIDA, and these ones I'll be going into details to explain what they are. Spotlight Nigeria is a business and investment summit, whereas NIDA is an annual recognition award event for Nigerians excelling in the diaspora. These are some pictures from our maiden event, which held last year, October 2023, where we had we celebrated Nigerians doing very well in their professional journey, and we also celebrated some business entrepreneurs. So we basically spotlighted trailblazers of Nigerians that are trailblazing in the diaspora with a focus on Europe. And you can see some of the pictures here. Our maiden event was in October 2023, as I mentioned earlier, and we'll be having the next edition of NIDA in 2024. Look out for the dates, and we'll be announcing that shortly. Spotlight Nigeria, as I mentioned earlier, is an event that focuses on basically bringing out the best of the European counterparts or the Nigerian counterparts to meet up in Paris, and where they are able to exchange ideas and concretely sign deals. And this is an event that Friends of Nigeria has hosted since 1st of October 2014, and we've hosted so far 6 editions. Our 7th edition is this year in 2024, October. And basically, Spotlight Nigeria is something that has been quite successful. I'll show you some pictures. We've hosted dignitaries from Nigeria and from France. We've had the support of the Nigerian embassy in France, the support of the French embassy in Nigeria. We've had support of key stakeholders, just like Honorable Abike Dabiri, who is the NICOM executive. And we've had different stakeholders from the French public investment industry, BPI France specifically, Business France, and we always involve high-level stakeholders from both Nigeria and France. So the next event will also be in October 2024, the 7th edition, as I mentioned earlier. Friends of Nigeria operates based on committees. We also have, but before I mention the committees, we also function on, we have a board. We have the executive board that's going to the day-to-day operations of the events and and the running of the association. We have an honorary board. All of this information you can find on our website. But because we're talking about what Friends of Nigeria from a relatable point of view today, we'll be sharing what the committees are within Friends of Nigeria. We've got the governance committee, we've got the digital committee, professional committee, social and events committee, publicity committee, business committee, and each of you are welcome to join any of our active committees and become members and volunteer for our committees, and just bring your great ideas and share them with us. We've also got our FON Professional Committee. What do we do in the FON Professional Committee? We are engaged, we organize webinars and in-person events. We collaborate on FON events. We also organize themed events for the capacity building, knowledge sharing, and of our members. We have FON orientation programs where we envision to welcome new students and professionals, share knowledge with them, and then we organize networking and mentorship events. We also have recruitment programs for people that are within the network and would like to share their opportunities at their companies with fellow members of the FON network, just for other people to also access those job opportunities. And with that, I'll just share our social media handles. For some of you that might not know that we are on LinkedIn, you can find us on Friends of Nigeria Europe, and I'll just let you take a screenshot of this if you need to. And yeah, we also are on YouTube, we are on X, we are on Facebook, and then we are also on Instagram. These are the platforms that can connect with us. If you've taken a screenshot, that'd be great. And then obviously we have a website. We are registered as an association here in France. We are registered in Paris as an association. And we also have our website where you can see details of, what exactly we do in details, and you can contact us. So thank you very much for joining, everyone. I'll stop sharing now. And then, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And I would like to say thank you to Nkechi Nwosu for also bringing in Level Higher to collaborate with Friends of Nigeria to organize this this event. And I'd like to also comment on Olumide Okubadijo and Habib Aminu for their time and their resources. Feel free to add them on LinkedIn, each and every one of them on LinkedIn, and feel free to register with Friends of Nigeria as a member to join. The link to join has been shared on the comment section, and I'll leave the webinar going. I'll stop recording at this moment, and I'll leave the webinar on a little just so you can copy the resources from the chat and use those resources after. So I'll stop recording right now. Thank you, everyone.